Okay, so we are starting a new module, starting module 6. It is a quick chapter, but it is an important chapter. So we are going to do module 6, chapter 1, where we are going to find part of a group. So we're going to talk about finding a fractional part of a group. We're going to use the manipulatives today, okay? Uh, and so we'll kind of dive a little bit further on. So this is actually going to lead into the objective of multiplying a fraction by a whole number. Okay, so we will start that tomorrow, the actual multiplying part. But right now we're going to use the counters in order to solve our problem and kind of get an idea of what it looks like to have a fractional part of a group. So Maya collects stamps. She has 20 stamps in her collection. So how many counters do you think you need? If she has 20 stamps in her collection, how many do you need? 20. So you need to have 20 on your board. Okay, 20 stamps. These are representative of stamps. Make sure you have 20 counters. Okay, so now 4/5 of her collection have 4/5 of her stamps have been canceled. So how many of the stamps have been canceled? Okay, so I need to find 4/5 of 20. I need to find 4/5 of 20. So I have my 20 counters on my board, right? Everybody should have 20 counters sitting on their board. Not more, not any less. Count out 20 counters onto your math board. So since I want to find 4/5, what would be the logical amount of groups that I should have? How many groups should I have if I want to find 4/5 of my 20? Lexi, what do you think? 5. Excellent idea. So I need to separate them into 5 equal groups, which is that first blank on your page. So I'm going to separate them into 5 groups. So I'm just going to kind of count them all into 5 groups. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we have 5 groups or 5 columns, right? Okay. So whenever I have them separated into my 5 groups, I want to draw on my paper how many counters are in each of my groups. So you're just going to draw little circles in your 5 boxes on your paper. And once you figure out how many there are, how many are in each group? Who can tell me? Can you see how many are in mine? In each column, how many are there? Maddie. There are 4 counters in each group. Okay. So on the second blank, so my first blank was 5 because that's how many groups I had. The second blank is 4 because there are 4 counters in each group. And whenever I see the little draw section where there are 5 squares, I'm going to draw 4 circles in each of my squares because there are 4 counters in each of my 5 groups. So each group represents how much of the stamps. Think about fractions. Each group represents how much of my stamps. If there's 5 groups, this is equal to what fifths? Peyton. 1/5. So the blank right underneath the drawing, each group represents 1/5 of my stamp. So then, if I were to find 4/5 of my group, I already have 4/5. So if I know 1/5 and I have 5 groups, 4/5 would be 4 of my fifths, right? 4 of my fifths. So I want you to circle that in your box. So out of the 5 boxes, you circle how many boxes? I'm finding 4/5. Angela, 4. So that means when it asks how many groups did I circle, I say I circle 4 groups. And how many total counters did I circle? Who can tell me? How many counters did I circle? Maddie. 16. It's not all of it. I left out 1/5.
What did each group represent?
Each group represents 1/5 of the stamps. In just a moment, I will show you my page. Okay, or actually, I'll do it right now. So far, right, I have 5 equal groups, 4 counters in each group. I had all my counters represented in each box. And then I saw that each group represented 1/5 of my stamps. Then I circled 4/5 of my counters because I know each one of these represents 1/5. And then I circled 4 groups, right? 16 in total counters within those 4 groups. So 4/5 of 20 is what? 4/5 of 20 is what? How many counters were there? Total counters in the 4 groups. What is it? 16. So 4/5 of 20 is 16. Or times 20 is 16. So 16 of the stamps have been canceled. So how many groups would be successful if there were 3/5 of the stamp? Instead of 4, I have 3/5. So that means how many groups would be circled? Okay, do we have that? What would be 3/5? How many groups? How many groups? If I have 3/5 instead of 4/5, how many groups? It's as simple as what's the numerator? 3. Okay? We following along? We have this page filled out. Okay. Moving on to the next page. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use these same ones. However, now I need to look at this example. So Max has a stamp collection as well. Max has a collection that are from different countries. He has 12 stamps from Canada. So I need to have, instead of 20, I need to have 12. Okay, so now I have 12 stamps, and they're from Canada. Of these 12, that I have, of these 12 that I have, 2/3 of them have pictures of Queen Elizabeth II. So how many stamps have the Queen on them? So I'm going to draw an array. So that, do you guys know what an array is? What is an array? It kind of looks like what I have right here, right? Okay, so it kind of looks like this. It's kind of like rows of columns to represent a number. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to draw it on my paper by drawing an X for each stamp. So whenever I want to find the 2/3 of the stamps, my array should have how many rows of equal size? They're already listed for you. How many rows do I have? 3, because I'm finding 2/3, so I need to have 3 rows. So 3 rows of equal size. So on your paper, draw it out, but I would do this kind of flipped. I would flip it on this side because it's kind of long. So I would draw, here, I'll show you. I'm going to draw my array. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I have 3 rows of 4, right? So if I'm finding 2/3 of my rows, right? How many would I circle? How many rows would I circle if I'm finding 2/3? How many am I gonna how many am I gonna circle? If I'm finding 2/3. How many rows? If I have 3 rows, then I find 2. So I'm gonna circle 2 of my 3 rows. What do you mean bubble? What, as long as it's 2/3, like mine. Okay. So how many X's are circled in my array here? How many are circled in my representation here? Right. 8. 8. So that means 2/3 of 12 is 8. Or 2/3 times 12 is equal to 8. It was already right. So that means there are how many stamps of with a picture of Queen Elizabeth II? What is the repeated number? What is it? 8. There are 8 stamps with a picture of Queen Elizabeth. So look here. On this little thing right here, it already has the counters there for you to use. So I can find 7/8 of 16. So what do we have right now? What's listed here? What can you tell me how many rows there are? 2. How many counters are in each of those rows? 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So how many rows would I need to circle in order to solve my problem? Actually, this is split. Hold up. Because rows are this way. Sorry. So there are rows. How many rows is split these numbers? There are 8 rows of 2, not 2 rows of 8. Because our rows are like this and columns are like this. Does that make sense? Ladies and gentlemen, rows are sideways, columns are up and down. So you need to flip those 2 numbers. How many rows would I circle in order to solve my problem if I'm finding 7/8 of 16? Can't have the same person answer over and over and over again. How many of the 8 rows would I need to circle in order to have 7/8 of 16? It's as simple as looking at the numerator, y'all. What's the numerator? What's the numerator? 7. I need to circle 7, so that means I'm going to circle everything except for that last row. So how many counters are circled? 14. 14 because 16 minus 2 is what? 14. So that means 14 is the equivalent of 7/8 of 16, or 7/8 times 16. So I want to use a model to solve my problems here. You should not be talking. So I'm going to use a model to find 2/3 of 18. So I'm going to get 18 up here. So now I have 16, right? 17, 18. Okay. So I need to put my model into rows to find 2/3 of 18. So how many total rows should I have? How many rows should I have if I'm looking for 2/3? If I'm looking for 2/3 of a number, how many rows should I have? Key hint is third. 3. Our number of rows that we start with is the denominator. My circle is the what? Numerator. This is so simple. This is probably the easiest model you've had all year so far. So I need to have 3 rows, and that means, so let's do 18. If I 18 by 3, how many would be in each of my rows? What is 18 divided by 3? 18. So that means I need to have 6 in each row. Okay. So now I'm making 3 rows of 6. So then, what's 2/3 of that? How many rows do I circle? What did I say? It's the what number? The numerator or the denominator? Numerator. The numerator. So I circle how many? 2/3 of 18? What is it? What is my numerator on number 2? What's my numerator on number 2? What's my numerator on number 2, Natalie? What's my numerator on number 2? My numerator? The numerator is the top number. So what am I circling? How many rows? It's my numerator. Come on. Somebody help her out. My numerator, right? How many rows do I circle? If it's 2. 2. It's as simple as that. Okay. 2/3 is 2 of my rows. So that means, how many counters do I have there? How many total? Tell me out, y'all. Right. 12. Do we agree? Yes. 12 is equal to 2/3 of 18. 2/3 of 18 is equal to 12. I can also write that as 2/3 times 18. I promise y'all, it's not that bad. Okay? This is the fun stuff. We're getting to the fun stuff. We're multiplying fractions, y'all. I'm so excited. So I want to let's do number 3. So I need 15 now instead of 18. So I need to have 2/5 of 15 or 2/5 times 15. Okay? They're the same thing. They mean the same thing. It's just we're using it as we want to have both of those pieces of mathematical language to understand. Okay? So instead of 18, I have 15, right? Is that right? So now I have 5 columns here. Okay? I have 5 columns of how many? 3, right? Because I need to have 5 total rows or columns. Okay? In this case I chose to use columns because that's how it was already set up for me. Okay? So 5 columns, right? That is my denominator. So now I need 2/5 of this 15. So if I have 5 groups, how many of them do I circle? If I have 2/5, how many do I circle? It's my numerator. What is it? How many? 2 of my 5 groups, right? So I just circled 2 of my 5 groups. So what is my answer? How much is in here? 6. So 2/5 times 15 is 6. Okay? I promise it's not that hard. Honestly, this is the easier part is using using the counters. Okay? So whenever you do your paperwork in just a second, because you're going to do some practice, my expectation is for you to use the counters to help you solve. Okay? So look, page 249. Okay? Look at page 249. This is your in-class work today. Okay? I want you to use, you need, you need to have the counters, so I expect you to get this done in class. Okay? When Kason comes back. Okay. So for 1 through 12, you're using the counters to represent your problem to help you solve. We'll get to the math part of it before, like tomorrow, but today you're focusing on using the model of the math counters. So all you're doing is remember your amount of groups or rows, right, is your what number? The numerator, denominator? My amount of groups? The total amount of groups is my denominator. Do we understand that? Yes. And it's not on the page. It is your in-class work today. Amount is my denominator. My amount of groups is my denominator. My rows or groups that are circled is my numerator. Okay? Think of it as dividing this number by your denominator, right? And then circling the amount of the groups total is that numerator, okay? Do we understand? I feel like it's pretty simple and straightforward. Work in a partner. I prefer it to be somebody at your table, but if you need to move, or if you need to be in a group of 3, that's okay. But I want you to try and do front and back of both of these, of both. I want to see both. Okay? I'm not doing odds or evens today. I want you to try and do as much as you can because I want you to represent it hard in front of you so that you can understand it because this is a big part of your test next week is having to understand how to use the counters, okay? So take this time, get to work. You'll have about 20 minutes or so. If you need any assistance in doing it, please let me know.